Boxing Voice.
All right, so we're live here with Keith Thurman. And Keith, basically, you know, theboxingvoice.com, as always, appreciate your time. And we just want to get an update. There were a lot of rumors. We interviewed Roberto Garcia. He was under the impression he was getting the fight. So everybody wants to know what's going on with you. What's next for you?
What's next is all in the workings. There's another guaranteed. I believe I'm going to be thrown on a November date, which is going to be good. It's going to give me just a little bit more time to finish off this physical therapy with my shoulder. That's really what just set me back this year. You know, I really wanted to crunch out 3 fights, but in camp, I was babying my left hook a little too much, and it made me want to look into what's really going on. And luckily it was nothing severe, it was nothing really major, no real major damage, but there was a lot of inflammation, and that's where all my soreness was. So physical therapy is helping me release the tension in my shoulder, which is getting rid of the inflammation. And I'm just sticking to my regimen and looking forward to getting back into action here in a few months and give you guys another great performance. And hopefully it's up against a great opponent, but I'm yet to know who we're looking at. I would love to bridge the gap and actually fight somebody over on the top rank side, if possible. I hear little rumors that Oscar is supposed to have a sit-down with Bob, and hopefully somewhere in that sit-down he asks Bob, who do you have for Keith Thurman? Maybe it could even be Pronovikov. Who knows, man? There's a lot of great fights out there. I just want to create one of those great fights for the fans this year and give them a great performance toward the end of the year here.
Now, there was once upon a time when signing to Al Haymon meant that you can get the big fights, that you could get the big names, and it hasn't been that way for you. I mean, you've had credible names, Jan Zavic, Jesus Soto Caras, Carlos Quintana. You know, you've been in there with names, but none of the names that are trending now, not the Mayweathers, the Broners, the Maidanas, the Matisses, like you said, anything happening on Top Rank. Is there a bit of frustration on your part, or are you taking it nonchalantly because you knew that you had the injury?
You know, it is a little difficult having to deal with it, you know, because other fighters, it's like they can't not get a great fight, right? Like, you know, they just get thrown in here and they get picked to fight this guy and that guy, and some people get shots before they deserve it. You know, some people are just at the right place at the right time, man. And in my career, it seems like I'm always running into some form of difficulty getting what I want. But at the end of the day, man, I sit back and I laugh, man. I find it all pretty hilarious, man, and a part of my journey, man. Every fighter is on a journey, man. Their career is a part of their legacy. Some have greater legacies than others, man. And to me, me not getting the big fights is just a part of my legacy, because there will be a day where there's nothing but big fights, where there'll be what I call a day of no return. And a lot of people just don't want to see that. They don't want to see me in all the action right away. But I'm going to get my shot, and it's coming soon. Hopefully we can break the ice with this up-and-coming fight, but you never know. We'll see what happens.
Now, what sort of level of disappointment did you experience being ringside and watching, you know, the fight that fight fans were basically watering at the mouth for between you and Porter, and all he had to do was get past Brook in our eyes? Now, we don't know if that fight would have actually happened, but it seemed like as if he would have won, you guys would have met next. Were there any talks of that, and how was the disappointment for you when you seen him lose?
Um, I was disappointed in seeing him lose as a friend, not as a competitor. I know Team Porter very well. I felt like he didn't show the world all of his boxing ability. I feel like he just got caught up in running people over, and he ran into an obstacle that night with Kell Brook. Kell Brook wasn't easy to maul over, and Kell Brook didn't just simply sit down. One judge had it a draw. I expected that, and I told people it could have been a possible draw across the board, but it all depends on how you want to look at the fight. And, the judges were impressed with Kell Brook's accuracy throughout the fight, and that's what truly helped him win was his defense and his accuracy. But, me versus Sean Porter was going to be, it was being talked about like it was going to be the first, like, super omega fight of, like, the next generation, the young kids coming up that are beating everybody. Me and Sean Porter, we were going to be that, and it was going to be a superstar-like event. And it's an event that can no longer happen. At least not it's an event that cannot happen at the magnitude that it was portrayed as, but it would still be a tremendous fight because Sean Porter brings action. It's boxing, man. You can't really have a lot of expectations in boxing. You always got to keep an open mind and understand that this is a real sport, man. This is real, a mano. Anything can happen on fight night. If anything, man, I got my eyes a little bit geared towards Kell now because in my heart, all that I ever wanted to really do is get rid of the undefeated fighters in the welterweight division, and with that fight, we got rid of one. We got rid of maybe one that we didn't think we were going to get rid of, but that's what happened. So now in the welterweight division, in the top 10, we are left with Kell Brook, Floyd Mayweather, and Keith Thurman. There's only 3 undefeated welterweights left in the welterweight division, and knowing that I'm one of them, it just makes me pumped. It makes me psyched, and I'm looking forward to seeing which one of us experiences that L. Floyd's got a fight coming up. I'm pretty sure Marco Maidana's going to try to get his gloves on this time. Don't know if he's going to change the game plan up, but, he is a puncher, so he does have the puncher's chance. Floyd's always known that, and a rematch isn't going to take it away, So we'll see, man. I'm really excited to be where I'm at in my career right now. I do have disappointment, but it's okay, man. Life can be disappointing sometimes. It's not too disappointing for me. I'm still enjoying the ride, man, so I'm having a good time.
Now, before we switch topics off of Kell Brook, was there any one thing that you seen in that fight that you weren't pleased with from both men?
There wasn't one thing that I saw from both men, but there were things individually that I saw. Like Kell Brook should have thrown more punches, in my opinion. But, he fought safe. He fought safe, and he still pulled out the W, so he did what he needed to do. But I feel like he could have let his hands go a little bit more, and Kell could have definitely went to the body. Kell Brook barely threw any body punches throughout the whole fight. So that's something that I definitely saw. And Sean, I think Sean could have just stayed on the outside a little bit more, maybe changed up his tempo some, because it seemed like Kell Brook could read the pace that Sean was trying to set, and the way that he was bouncing, Kell recognized that rhythm. So I was hoping that eventually later on in the fight he would change the pace up a little bit, but he never did.
Now, you were sitting ringside. Did the constant holding and clinching, was that a problem for you, or as a fighter, do you just figure that's something you have to, work out, not allow yourself to be clinched and held? Because the Porter camp is definitely, using that as the excuse as to why things went the way they were, saying that the referee made it clear that there weren't going to be any holding and there was excessive clinching and holding throughout the entire fight. Is that something that you're prepared for and you don't leave it up to the ref, or could you see where they're coming from and you did feel the clinching was a bit excessive?
You know, that's such a hard thing, man, because when it comes to clinching, there's a lot of things that play into factor. First is, how did you guys get so close in the first place? Did both you guys move into each other, or did one smother the other? You see? And Porter was doing a lot of smothering that night. And, you know, Kell kind of held on. You know, once when he got close enough on the inside, Kell would wrap up because you really can't fight on the inside. You know, Sean was trying to throw punches that close, but they really weren't that effective. And they needed more distance between each other. It's a hard call, man. Sean would sometimes grab himself because he was smothering himself so much. Eventually, he would try to throw a hook, and he'd wrap his arm around him, and then they were both holding each other, and the ref was warning both of them verbally, you know, hey, let go, but he never officially warned, like, hey, you guys are excessively holding. Now, if you keep doing this, I'll take a point away. Maybe the ref should have done that in the match. That way they could have been consciously aware that the clinching is getting a little excessive in this fight and that they need to try to get in and get out without as much clinching and holding and smothering, because smothering can lead to holding, and if your smothering is going to lead to a hold that's going to lead to a point deduction, then you're going to want to find another strategy.
Okay. Now, Eddie Hearn has made it clear that there's very little interest in a fight with you. In order to turn that perception in his eyes, would you be willing to go to Sheffield? And because he has a date for December 6th, I believe. And I know that may be too soon because of the injury, but if the mitigating factor in making this fight with Kell Brook is that you have to travel to the United Kingdom, is that something you're willing to do? Or do you feel that, as far as you're concerned, you fight on American soil and you highly doubt Al Haymon would allow something like that?
Well, first, I'm going to quote my favorite Adidas T-shirt that says all day. I would do that all day, all right? I don't care where we fight, man. You can put me on the moon as long as there's a ring and some judges. I'll make the fight happen, you know. I have no hesitation with traveling, and I'm going to tell you why. My original trainer, Ben Getty, he really taught me everything, man. He taught me all I needed to know about the sport before I knew anything about the sport. He used to talk about the pros when I was a 10-year-old amateur. He used to talk about the pros and how it works as a pro and what you need to do to be a pro and what you need to do to be a champion. And he used to say that when it comes to fighting overseas, you never go overseas unless if you can knock the guy out. And my original trainer worked with a fighter named Seabrooks.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Winky, because Winky went overseas a lot.
Winky went overseas a lot. That was because he had to build his career up. And his position was a little different. When it comes to grabbing belts overseas, you need to really be able to outclass the other person, but mostly the easiest way to guarantee that you will not be robbed overseas is to be a power puncher and to produce a knockout. To know that you're going over there to produce a knockout, nothing more, nothing less besides that knockout. And I would love to fight Kell Brook, man. Like I said, he's another undefeated fighter. You know, December would be fine with me. I have no problem making my weight, getting down, and being fully recovered with my shoulder by December. But I really don't believe that that's the fight that they want. How long as a fighter, and then his next fight he fights another undefeated fighter. You know, to me, I simply say boxing doesn't work that way anymore. You know, there's more politics, and they'll put in a few more pieces in between before they go and take another. I believe he's a true warrior. Who some of the best fighters in the world are out there, and which fights interest him, man. He's interested in one time interested in the special one. I want to know how special he is. He looked pretty special last time he was here, and I'll fly over there, man. It'd be a great fight. I know the fans want to see it. And I know Al would let it happen. Just to let you know, Al would let it happen.
Really? You think that? Because the way that I see it is he just allowed it to happen with Sean Porter, who was undefeated and really looking special, if you want to use the word. I mean, he destroyed Malignaggi, and he really ran through Devin Alexander, who was a proven champion both at 140 and 147. So then to lose to a guy relatively unknown that his biggest name on his resume at the time was Sinchenko, I don't know. I hope that you're right, because we would love to see that fight. But I do want to segue into what some of your fans may not know, because they may not have been following you as long as we have. And I remember doing one of our first interviews with you when you were scheduled to fight in Cincinnati, where Broner's going to fight this weekend. You were going to be on the Escobedo undercard. You were going to fight Marcos Maidana, and he pulled out, saying that you're too big of a puncher, that you're not a tune-up fight. And this was when you were 17-0. Fast forward all this time now, Marcos Maidana is basically the man next to Mayweather because of how good he was able to perform. He's gotten the rematch. He's become this hot commodity. How do you feel sitting in the outside, looking in, knowing that he basically ducked you?
The day he ducked me, I said there's somebody in Argentina that gives a fuck about Marcos Maidana. You know? Because, once again, man, my original trainer taught me everything, man, and he told me you need people that care about you. In this sport, you need people that care about you. And I'm going to tell you, man, I'm a very humble man. I'm very grateful for where I am in the sport. You know, we can complain and you can whine about whatever you want to whine about, man, but life is a blessing, man. I'm truly blessed just to be here. I'm truly blessed to be living out my dream, you know, to be a world-class fighter, to be doing this interview with you right now, for you to care about my opinion. My dreams have already come true, man. We're just going to stack a few belts in the next few years to make these dreams even bigger, man. But, you know, someone cared about Marcos Maidana, man. They pulled him out of the fight that was going to be very risky. They took a left turn instead of a right. They went around the bend. They took a few other fights. They had some great performances. They got to fight Adrian Broner and dominated that fight in a world-class fashion and created a lot of buzz and hype from then on out, man. And they got into the Mayweather sweepstakes, fought Mayweather hard for 12 rounds, and is now in a rematch, man. You know, Marcos Maidana obviously has put on a lot of hard work and dedication to the sport. You know, the fact that he ducked me, it is what it is, you know. But obviously it was beneficial for him and his career. He has a family to feed, you know. I'm really not going to be mad about this in life, man. I'm 25 years old. I got 10 more years in this sport, if that's what I feel like giving you guys, man. I got 10 years. You know, maybe Marcos Maidana's not going to be around in 10 years. Floyd Mayweather's not going to be around in 10 years. But there's going to be plenty of live dogs to be around and to be victims of Keith One-Time Thurman.
Victims, I like that. So, now, I guess, staying on the same topic, are you as confident back then about being able to beat Marcos Maidana when you were 17-0? Are you as confident now? Because he's a different fighter, clearly, but so are you. I mean, you've both had time to work on, you know, deficiencies or mistakes that you might have made in the ring in the past. So you're both different fighters, but of course, like you've already mentioned, he's done some things that have garnered more attention than what you've done. But does that take away anything from you? Does that mean that you're still not the same guy that was as confident when you were 17-0 that you can handle Marcus Maidana fairly easy? Or has that perception of him changed because of what he's been able to do since then?
Nah, man. In reality, every day, my job only gets easier for me, man. Every day. It only gets easier. You know, the insight that I'm gaining and gathering throughout my time, even having to be off, man, I'm like a fine wine, man. I only get better with time, man. I got so much insight. You know, Marcos Maidana's not a boxer, man. You know, he's not a boxer. Devin Alexander outboxed him easy. And that's exactly what Floyd Mayweather should do this time. He should separate himself from fighters like Marcos Maidana and show people why this is boxing. All right? The sport of boxing is not the sport of fighting. Fighting is what men do when they get angry because of the way you talked about his mom or his girlfriend. That's what fighting is, okay? Boxing is a very strategic sport. And I hope and I pray that Floyd Mayweather shows the fans that this time. Last year he showed it to us back-to-back. Floyd Mayweather showed us the definition of boxing back-to-back. This last performance of his, I call his last performance with Marcos Maidana the Muhammad Ali rope-a-dope. All right? That's what Floyd chose to give the fans, that last performance. This time, I want to see that Floyd Mayweather Jr., the one that was the Olympian. That's the Floyd I want to see this time. I want to see the Olympian, and I want to see him outbox Maidana the way that it should be done, man. Maidana doesn't like footwork. He doesn't like having to chase you. He doesn't have a whole lot of true athleticism to his approach. He is just physically strong, hungry. He is well-conditioned. And, you know, it takes more than conditioning to be truly athletic. So we'll see, man. I have no problem picking Maidana apart, man. The one thing that would be great about fighting Maidana would be knowing that you have to protect yourself at all times because, like me, he can rattle your cage in one blow.
Okay.
And that brings a lot of excitement to the fight.
So, last but not least, of course, in this fight, which is you're expecting Mayweather to win and win fairly easy, I assume.
Yeah, you know, all he needs to do is work a little harder. You know, he won the last fight and he didn't do much to do it. You know, so this time, all he needs to do is work a little harder and just separate himself, man. Don't let Maidana hit him so much, all on the arms and the shoulders and in the back of the head and all that. You know, I tell fighters all the time, man. When you're up against the ropes and you're getting hit on the arms, a lot of times the judges are saying you're taking shots. You know, and he just needs to not Maidana to get that form of credit. You know. When you're at Floyd's level, though, you get a little bit more respect when you're leaning on the ropes. We respect him for his defensive style. Thus, the judges expect him to take punches on his arms. But still, like I said, the commentators and everybody a lot of times will claim that a lot of punches were getting through. And I just want him to just minimize that talk. Just minimize that talk this time, and it should be a clearer decision across the board.
All right. Well, I got one last one just to break up the seriousness of this conversation. Of course, at the Porter Brook fight, Showtime put their cameras on you. Young lady next to you noticed before you did and asked for a kiss, and boom, all of a sudden you're on the big screen kissing the girl in front of the world. Did you know that was happening, and how did you feel?
Nah, man, I was just giving my girl a kiss, man. You know, she's getting into boxing a lot, you know. I've taken her to every Mayweather fight that's been on his contract with Showtime. And she sees the sweet science, man, you know. She knew Kenny Porter and that team, and we hung out with them before the fight, the day before the fight. I mean, she's just supportive, man, and she was a lover of sports ahead of time, and now she's a lover of boxing, man. She jokes about opening up her own blog so she can write her own reports and do her own interviews, because sometimes she don't like what's being said out there, and she feels like it's a whole bunch of gibberish. So she says, why don't I write my own gibberish and say what I want to say, you know? But I tell her, just sit back and laugh at what people got to say, you know. Some people know what they're talking about. Other people are full of opinions, man, and you just got to let them have their air. It's my job to prove the critics wrong and the fans right, you know.
Well, I'll tell you what. You send her our way, man. We'll give her a desk and a computer to type on if she really wants to be a writer. So, Keith, I want to thank you again. TheBoxingVoice.com definitely appreciates your time, and you know, we want to stay up to date. So if you change that number, text me again, brother, because you know, you're one, like you said, you're one of the few undefeated boxers in the welterweight division. So every publication and reporter should want to be close to you, because your next move is always big news. So again, we thank you, and you know, we can't wait to see you back in the ring.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
All right, brother. You take it easy.
You too. Take care. God bless.
The Boxing Voice.